Well, Dr. Billy Garvey, this is episode 78. It's our reflective part 2 episode on school success. What are you covering this week's episode?
Yeah, so lots of questions from like starting daycare, kinder, primary school, high school, how do we set kids up to succeed? What do we do when they're struggling? Cover things like separation anxiety, kids that are getting bullied, when we're really struggling with certain elements of school or social elements, emotional regulation, things aren't going the way that we want them to. How can we cover that off? And then, mate, I was just so impressed. There was a couple of really beautiful moments of things that you mentioned this time that I just sat there and enjoyed it.
You put me on the spot a couple of times, so I tried my best. The quick fire answers at the start, incredibly actionable for parents. So we go through fast fire, rapid round, which I think everyone will get a lot of benefit from. And if you've got some more complex parenting challenges with school success, Billy goes deep on a lot of long, complex questions and gives some really great answers. So really applicable if you've got some more complex stuff going on in school or at home. We hope you enjoy the episode, guys, and speak to you soon.
Hi, I'm Billy, a developmental paediatrician.
And I'm Nick, a developing parent.
We're going to use scenes from iconic movies to talk about how we best support our kids.
This is Pop Culture Parenting.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.
Good morning, Dr. Billy Garvey. How are you today?
I'm good. A tough couple of weeks since the last record, but coming out of the hole now.
Well, you look fresh. You had a haircut, haven't you?
Thank you. That's exactly what I needed. Yes, a haircut. We just did, I think it was during the recording, Annalise was on 7 straight nights, and then everyone got sick. So been in the trenches, but mate, I'm feeling brighter just seeing your face walking here this morning. So it's a bit of medicine in that.
The family looks like they are recovering slightly.
Yes.
Although I did get you might want to just wait there.
Yeah. I know, I felt bad. You were so excited to see everyone. And I was like, just keep your distance, mate.
Stay outside. Sweet chat.
But yeah, it's rare. I didn't get sick, really, which is, I'm usually the worst, including the
dads are usually the worst.
Yeah. So
we go down like a ton of bricks.
I know. It's always hard to play your violin too loudly when there's a 6-month-old that's sick as well.
Exactly. We've got a question in here where someone's like, "Oh, Dad said he was dying."
Yeah. It's a great one.
But we'll get into it.
But yeah, how are you going?
Good.
Yep.
I'm last day of daycare with my oldest daughter and about to start school with my first kid. So timely episode, Billy. Much appreciated. Lots of reflection.
How have you found it thinking about it?
Good. I'm glad we did the episode because I feel like I'm a little bit more ready.
Awesome.
Certainly feel like I'm more ready, but like it's brought forward as opposed to feeling all these things about dropping her off day one and be like, I've not done the preparation. So I feel like I've done the preparation. I also spoke to a bit of an old hand at the school, someone who's got kids in year 2, 4 and 6. So nice. I was like, mate, just give you some tips. So they were excellent as well. So sort of giving me a bit more guidance. So I was more proactive. Of course, upon finishing the episode, I was like, go to Henrietta, look at all these things. She's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, I felt bad. We have division of labour in our house.
Yeah.
So I'm head of like logistics. She's head of some of the other stuff. So
and you've got that golden 30 minutes in the morning where you just shoot the lights out.
Stop rubbishing me on that one. And I always arm mum with a coffee. That's always the best thing. It's kind of like get mum a coffee and everything will be a bit better.
Same, yeah, that's one of my moves.
Feeling a lot better, thinking more about how to making her feel successful and praising the effort. They're kind of my two biggest focuses.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm like, that's it. And just trying to build and not overwhelm the teacher on day one, but certainly a focus in the first term is to try and build a relationship with the teacher and just, I guess, bringing in sort of like, hey, this is some of the stuff we're working on. Are you seeing any of this at school? So trying to make sure to realise that school is not it's the practice where it's the game day where like home is practice. So
Yeah, amazing, mate.
I say all these things and I have best intentions as school starts, but it is going to be a lot more different than I thought. So just trying to stay on top of it.
Yeah, you do amazing, mate. And then,
We'll see.
yeah, do you want to hit the polls?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, we've got a bit to get through this week. So if you have, I know you might be a first-time listener.
yeah,
you might
that's
not
true.
be.
Yeah, we're getting
this is our part 2 episode. So Billy and I, but Billy brought a lot of knowledge to part 1 of this episode, which was episode 77, and it was about school success. This is the part 2 episode where all the listeners have asked us hundreds of questions again via Instagram, email on Pop Culture Parenting. So go and like and follow, share, maybe leave us a review of the old
Some
podcast.
amazing reviews lately.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, really beautiful, heartfelt
flattering.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
thank
we
you.
appreciate that. We really do. We genuinely do. We turn up each week because we know it makes a difference to people. We get that from the messages. Anyway, if you haven't been here before, this is part 2. We take the questions, distill them down to the most common ones. We lead off with some quick fire questions with Dr. Billy, which is largely what most people are asking. And then we have some more complex questions. We have 8 questions today. Some of them are quite long with a lot of complexity. I don't know why I say complexity.
Sounds beautiful.
Articulation. And then, they're really great, well thought out, well structured, long questions, lots of detail. And people really appreciate those ones as well.
It's almost like the question's better than the answer on the longs.
Yeah, I know.
Because
And some of the effort and self-reflection in these ones and awareness from these parents and teachers and carers is amazing. So without further ado, we get into the quick fire now. But we do open with 3 Instagram poll questions which we've asked over the last week. Billy, we asked the audience, do you worry about your child succeeding at school? 84% of people said yes.
Yeah, it's high, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was one of them.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably my last minute cramming that sort of led me to that. Sort of bringing back so much school with my kids starting at school.
Yeah, which is interesting that the second question is lower.
Yeah. Did you need more support when you were growing up? 70% said yes.
Yeah. I'm always surprised that, I think it shows the type of parents that listen to this kind of more worried about their child than they are themselves or, looking back themselves. So it's really important. And we've got a long question that will address this directly.
I'm not sure if this has probably been the same odd thing forever. I shouldn't stop on these questions. Just keep moving.
No. And then I can blame you for how long we go.
School feels far more complex today than it did when we were at school.
Yes.
But has every generation said that before them? Likely.
Yeah, but we're the one that's right.
We're the ones that are right here. Okay. And Billy, lastly, do you wish Heath Ledger had been your friend at high school? Billy, were you one of the 86% of people that said yes? I
am. A couple of people sent in you mean boyfriend. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I'll take that. But I think because he is this kind of, I almost put it as do you wish you were more like him? But I think the friendships like that anchor us and protect us are really important, and that might come up in some of the long questions.
Sure.
Yeah, and there's a question directly that talks to Heath Ledger as a person in the longs. But yeah, I think that's one of the really protective elements. And I don't know about you, I definitely had that. I had that really solid single friendship that kind of journeyed through from first day of prep until, last day of high school.
Yeah, I had a couple of those, prep all the way through. Billy does a big in-depth piece about Heath and his background in the previous episode, so go back and listen to it. All right, Billy, these are short questions. These are the short questions we're going to get through this week. Whenever I say it to him, he looks.
What's the game show where you had to get through as many as possible?
I don't know, but that is
be
this game
wrong.
show.
Wrong. Thankfully, you don't say
I'll
wrong.
tell you if these are wrong or right, Billy.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Billy, how to support your child's schooling without causing academic pressure or burnout?
Yeah, great question. And like a lot of things that we talk about, the key is watch the child. So we've got a long that kind of talks into what we bring to this and the vulnerability in that. But I think it's really important that we watch the child and see how they're going. As we've talked about it, school should be a place where every single child succeeds. But we've got to make sure that we're not putting pressure on them without noticing it. And that's actually built in making sure you've got really clear communication pathways. So you're not kind of saying, hey, I can see you're stressed, let's talk about it now. You've got that conversation happening proactively already about how things are going.
So don't wait to fix it sort of thing.
Yeah, don't wait until they're boiling over.
Yep, I like it. Billy, in your dreams, what would you change about traditional schooling?
Yeah, great question. So I'm really lucky that I've spent a lot of time with educators and in the research and stuff about this. There's obviously big things, about better pay, lower class numbers, better resources, more inclusivity and diversity in the way that it's taught, the way that it's evaluated, all that stuff. But I think the big thing that I think that's lacking is just better support of teachers from a developmental perspective. So that's kind of why a lot of the research and training I do with universities and things like that, trying to better prepare teachers as they're going through their university training, but also when they're on the ground at the coalface, they should have better access to support and not kind of be like, oh, well, I think your child is in one of the 20% of kids here that needs to see someone, you're going to wait 2 years, which is just ridiculous. So that's the big thing that I have very lucky that I get to change a little bit, but there's other stuff that's, needs to happen at a bigger level.
You do, and obviously you can go and speak to schools and you can reach out to us via this if you'd
awesome.
like to
That's
engage
happening
Billy
now,
to go
so
and do that. So yeah, you're still doing that often, but yeah, you can reach out to us via Pop Culture Parenting. Billy, how do you teach your preppy to ask for more help from teachers?
Yeah, what do you got for this?
Do you model it, Billy?
Yes, beautiful. What
That's all
about
I've got.
specifically with the teacher?
Build a relationship with the teacher.
Bang. Yes. So it's not Freddie. This is the person you point to them and go, see, Mrs. Smith, you get stuck. She's the one you talk to. Could you do that?
No.
Do you know what I mean? If I said to you, mate, see that guy over there? You get in a tough spot, go talk to him. Would you do it?
No.
Yeah. What would make you do it?
If I had met and had something to engage or connect on with that person.
Yeah. And what's the other thing you need to have?
An intro? I don't know.
Trust.
Trust. Trust.
You
Sorry.
gotta trust.
You need
don't
trust.
you?
Yeah.
So the reason I go to you when I'm stuck and want support and advice and stuff is because I trust you. It's not just because I know you. I trust you. And we've got to be careful that we don't tell a 5-year-old, hey, see that person who's like twice your size you never met before and, a big authority figure. Someone's bullying you, go to them. So you don't wait to build the relationship and the trust if they get stuck.
Yeah, it's funny. For the kid, they're an authority figure. For me, they're kind of like a partner in my kid's education.
Yeah.
We both see the same person very differently.
Yeah, definitely. So you just want to build the kind of the story, the child understanding who they are, what's important to them, who they are, not just a teacher. They're also like this person that's into this stuff. This is what their preferences are. This is what they like. This is what their life is outside of school. More likely to build a connection, a deeper relationship, and then trust. Trust is earned over time, and you want to start on that now, not wait till something starts struggling in 6 months or in 6 years.
You're going to have to send me a rough cut of this episode before it goes live. I need to listen to it before Monday. Okay. Billy, how do you ever advise for a kid to change schools?
Yeah.
Do you ever advise? Do you ever advise kids to change schools?
So I get asked this a lot, and it's quite funny because when I first started a long time ago getting asked that, I was very rigid. I was like, no, you shouldn't move schools. And then I was like, maybe you should actually, because I'd seen heaps of kids change and do better. The true answer is I'm fine with any child changing schools, staying down a year, repeating kinder, whatever, as long as I understand clearly the benefit of it. And the benefit cannot be they'll get another year.
Gotcha.
So that's the risk with doing that, is that time alone does nothing. The other reason about changing schools is you've got to address the underlying issue.
Yeah.
Now, I see kids all the time. I saw a kid on Monday who left a school because heaps of bullying was happening, horrific stuff, went to a new school, bullying's fired up again because the underlying issue hasn't been addressed for that child. And so that's the reason you've got to be careful that sometimes it can be a really great way to break a cycle once you've addressed the underlying issue, but you can't shortcut addressing that.
This feels like that. Yeah, and you sort of pills don't get skills sort of thing. It's kind of like you've got to address what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, that's tough. And that's not going to be easy, is it, Billy?
No, especially not if you're doing it on your own, but you shouldn't be. So, schools kind of coming in and thinking about this communication between the two different schools. And a lot of people will be like, that's never going to happen. But it does happen. It's just, it's hard to do it well.
Okay, cool. Let's keep going, Billy. Thoughts on homeschooling? Can your child make friends like at school?
Definitely, definitely. Homeschooling is really interesting. It's got a really long history, and there's kind of a lot of people kind of think, I think probably some people, to be fair, think, it's a bit of a cop out. It's just like, I'll just keep the kid at home and play video games. But homeschooling's really hard. There's a lot of structure and curriculum around it that supports families all over the world. The States have a big system, the UK does, Australia does. And it thinks about like how can we make sure that we meet the needs of this child and family from an education perspective. The social bit is a really important bit. There's a lot of evidence that shows that kids who are given good opportunity to develop deep relationships with same-age peers, even though they're homeschooling, will do well in their social and emotional development. You just have to be a bit proactive in it and think about other kids in traditional schooling systems will spend 6 hours a day with these peers. Doesn't mean they're going to develop good friendships, of course. We see lots of kids don't.
Yep.
But how do I make sure the opportunity is still there for a child who's not in that environment all the time?
Okay, thank you. Billy, how do I motivate a kid who's to intrinsically want to improve results regardless of the level of success?
Yeah, so so they get stuck a little bit. And I think we do this as parents and we do this as a society that, the success is the goal. I want you to win the grand final, the medal, whatever. But I think effort is the key. And so intrinsically, it's really about, them tapping into how they feel about things. So we've talked a lot about, like, what do you care about? What are you good at? What motivates you? But we also want them to tap in about how that makes them feel when they're making an effort, that kind of sense of disappointment, of failure, as well as, the reward of feeling like I've put energy into stuff. I think we're very good at talking about how great it was to lift up the grand final trophy at the end. We're not very good at talking about, like, how great it was to get up at train at 5 o'clock every morning and see that benefit and those things. So I think it's a lot of just the narrative that we put around kids is that victory is the key. But internally you've got to think about, the benefit of that and seeing that in your self-esteem and your personality is something that, you do this with BJJ, I do this with like running in the gym. It's really important for me. I'm not doing that for some long-term goal. I'm doing that because of how it makes me feel about myself intrinsically.
Yeah, for sure. But also, it's nice if you've got like some short-term stuff you're working on, I guess, like to see result, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I'm still waiting to see results from my running.
You're very fast, Billy. Billy, how do you help a child find their potential career?
Yeah, great question. How did you find your career?
Oh,
raw talent, just got plucked out.
No, followed an interest. I started my career pretty late though. I started my career late.
Well, you did a lot of fun stuff leading up to that.
I did, yeah.
No, I mean, mate, you should be proud of it. You're in Europe and
No. I didn't have a career coming back.
swabbing decks.
Exactly. When I came home from, I came home from travelling at, honestly, I think it was 28, and then picked my career, and I'm now 42.
Yeah. So I think experience is So what I've probably worked 15 different jobs, and I honestly can't believe I get paid to do what I do. I love every minute I walk through the hospital doors. But it took me a long time to get there. Like I had to do lots of different things. And I think for kids, what we want to do is foster that curiosity about what are the things that you enjoy and give them lots of opportunity. So like we talked about, what are the things you enjoy? What are the things you're good at? But give them lots of opportunity, curiosity to explore things. But it's often people, isn't it? It's often people that you connect with. And amazing paediatrician, that I met, probably 20 years ago, who, when I was in early med school, and he was just amazing, and he kind of fostered that in me and gave me a pathway in a practical way, and I kind of saw wanting to be like him. So,
okay,
amazing
opportunity and what they, okay, all right, Billy. What is the science of school starting age?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. It's a bit unfair to put it as a short. We should have built it into a long, really, but it didn't come as a long. We got it a lot as a short. So people worry about, like, my kid's going to be the youngest in the class. It's funny, people worry about that the most. America has this big culture of what's called redshirting. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's essentially like keeping a kid in the same environment or the same sports team.
I know about that.
Sporting. Yep. Yeah, so they hold the kid in like varsity or whatever you would talk about it, so that when they hit the NFL, they've had another year. It's called redshirting.
Yep.
The interesting thing is that the vulnerability exists both ways. So the kid can be too young, and then there's too big a gap between all the kids that are 6 to 9 months older than them. But it can also mean that the kid who's the oldest in the grade is kind of held back by being so much more advanced developmentally than all the other kids. So they don't get the same opportunity of growth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the challenge is that the actual age is not what actually matters. It's their developmental ability. So that's what we're actually talking about here, school readiness. We talked about the Australian data on this on school entry, but you want to think about like, where is my child at? And like I spoke about before, some kids will need to repeat a year, but they've got to repeat a year purposefully because they need more opportunity to get to the expected level developmentally, not because you're like, well, they should just do another year because they don't seem to be nailing
Another
it.
year will sort them out.
Yeah, exactly. Another year will sort them out. That does not work. I can guarantee you that I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, I did do prep twice.
Did you? Yes. Well, you're the exception to the rule, mate.
And it didn't solve everything, that's for sure. The 80s. Hey, Billy, how can we as teachers help an ever-growing diverse classroom succeed?
Yeah, so great question, and it just shows that stadium because it shows that teachers are listening to this and trying to think about how they can do their really difficult job even better. So you can't do it alone. So I think the things you can do as an individual, though, is kind of seek opportunities to learn more about things in terms of child development and mental health. So obviously I do that, but just seeking it out yourself, thinking about what are resources that are helpful. Hopefully this podcast is one of them for this person. But think about, how can I better build my capacity to meet the needs of every kid in my class? And how do I make sure, and I totally understand this is going to sound like it's ridiculous, but that I'm, as best as I can meeting the needs of every kid in my class. And if I'm not, I'm sending up flares and saying, hey, I need more help because there's this child, and this child who, as hard as I try, they're not succeeding here. They're struggling. They're not progressing. Their self-esteem is becoming more fragile. They're not building relationships, all that stuff, and reach out to the school leadership. To the school leadership should reach out to the community around them, all that stuff. It's really important that we don't just tolerate this anymore.
Can only ask. Squeaky wheel gets the most oil, Billy.
Yeah, we just got to get a bit better at squeaking.
Okay. Hey, Billy, I think this person asked the question. This is my person. More about praising effort and provide some more examples, please.
Yeah, so how do you, because you said that, you talked about that at the
same
start.
thing. I was like, give more examples. This one for me was really different, and I would praise probably the wrong thing where you were like, you had a really different point of view.
Mm. So how do you praise with Freddie? How do you differentiate between praising effort?
Well, I had some really bad. I had some okay ways. Like I was like, I'd do it in funny, silly ways though. I think there's better ways. I'd be like, she'd show me a picture. I'd be like, oh, that's Mum's version. Where's yours? And she'd be like, no, I did this one. And I'd be like, oh, that's amazing. Well done doing that. Like that's a really good job. But that's probably praising the outcome.
A little bit, but it's still really important. So beautiful examples. So praising the effort, you're in there with her while she's doing the drawing, seeing how hard she's trying.
Okay, so not just focused on the outcome. She shows me a picture. Go in and go.
So your footy team, you're really passionate about them. For overseas listeners, they're not the most liked team nationally, but you guys won. I should know that, but yes, you won.
Collingwood won. Yes.
So do you care more, and think about it, because I know what your instant answer is going to be. Do you care more that they win the flag, but they didn't really try? Or that you go to the grand final and they play the best game you've ever seen them play, every single player's out there grinding and they lose by a point? Think about it. Now think about it if it's your child on the field. Yeah. Would you rather that they just didn't really care?
Yeah. Look, I'm with you on this. The better examples like just the everyday effort and just seeing effort. That's what most people want to see. They love that. We love that. Like see people trying with a sports team. So yes,
so that's what the coach wants, don't they?
100%. Just got to put in the effort and sticking to the plan.
Yeah, it's not the flag.
No,
the flag is a result of the effort.
It can't be. There's only one. If the season's not a failure,
But it's not just because of that, because I agree with you. That's the kind of, pushback I understand against everyone gets a medal. But what I think is more important is the effort. Do you know what I mean? It's like the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Chicago Bulls. You want the Bulls, you don't want the Globetrotters that just do it effortlessly. Yeah. They spin it and they dunk it backwards and all that stuff. There's no joy in that. There's no real reward in that.
No.
So effort is what, and there'll be so many kids out there that are having so much effort without any success. So, that's why we really need to focus on the effort. The other thing about praise, I've said this before, but in case anyone hasn't heard it because it was a long time ago, you need to specifically, in real time, in the moment, reinforce it. So the problem about
reinforce what?
Exactly the effort they're making.
Gotcha.
So I can really see how hard you are trying to draw that flower like the one Mummy has. And I think it's great that you're doing that. And you can put corrections in there, but what you're praising is the effort. I can see how hard you are trying to share with the other kids on the playground. I can see how much you're working to understand why that person is upset. I can see how much you're putting in energy to including everyone that's on the playground. You know, all of those things. You pat them on the, you know, you did so well today in the playground. The kid's like, what are you talking about? That was 3 hours ago. You know, so you want to be in there with them.
Yep. I do that.
Totally. We all do
Last
that.
thing I say before they go to bed, hey, I do. I'm like, God, you know what you did today? That was really good. So, yeah. Like,
So that helps them how they feel about themselves. It doesn't really reinforce that connection in the moment that's happening that they go, I feel good about myself right now in this moment because I'm focusing on drawing a flower.
Yep.
Because I'm looking around and seeing that kid who's on their own and trying to bring them in.
Yep.
That's how you really reinforce a connection, like biologically and behaviourally.
Yep. That's why I'm here, Billy, learning. Okay, Billy. Path for when you just don't gel with the teacher. I had one with prep and now again in grade 1.
Yeah, so we had a few like this, or what if they get the mean teacher or whatever. So you've got to try really hard to be like, this is going to be a whole year of my kid here. I've got to find common ground with this teacher.
Common ground.
Yeah, common ground. You've got to. And the teacher, believe me, the teacher's not doing it for the pay. They're there because they really care about every single kid in that class. And you obviously care about your child. Just find the common ground and find the similarities. And it doesn't matter that they are completely different with your child than you are, but it does matter on the specific things that you're working on. Kids need to see consistency.
At home and at school.
Yeah, with specific stuff, not everything.
Not everything. Yeah,
But we are working on, you know, your whatever.
Stretch.
Yeah, your stretch. This is what it looks like at school is the same as what it looks like at home.
Love it, Billy. Billy, how do I help my autistic sensitive daughter transition to prep and gain confidence?
Yeah, beautiful. So really gently, and obviously, like, I don't know this child, but we know that children with autism will have vulnerabilities in their social and communication skills, and also elements of their environment like sensory sensitivities, difficulty with transitions. So what you want to try and think about without kind of putting too much of a burden on the child is, where are those vulnerabilities? So is it in depth of relationships? Because this is a new environment, there's going to be heaps of kids. Are they really good superficially, socially, but then struggle with depth? It might be just turn taking in conversations. It might be non-verbal cues. It might be understanding gestures. You've got to get to that level of kind of focus and say, sweet, Samantha really struggles with that little bit. What I'm going to do is make sure that we're really working on that and we drop everything else so that she does transition well. And that I'm really aware of her sensitivities here, and that specific stretch is all we're focusing on and we're doing it together. It might be the transitions bit, it might be the sensory bit. She's about to go into a really noisy environment. I know she struggles with that. There'll be lots of chaos. There's going to be heaps of older kids and all that stuff, and thinking about that. So getting into the focus of that and thinking about what is the specific thing that my child, and that's what all of us should be doing, regardless of a diagnosis. You know, you should be sitting there going, cool, how's Freddie going? I know that she's got this kind of emotional sensitivity, or she's sensitive to feedback. You know, she's really vulnerable when she feels like she's being left out of things, whatever it is. It might be the opposite. It might be that she's actually at risk of leaving other kids out because she doesn't have a great awareness of like what the younger kid might be like, or the kid who's not able to do something. How do I build her skills in that department? And that's where that success and feeling good about themselves comes from.
Okay, cool. Billy, how to best respond when your child slips up at school? You know, might be stealing from another kid or just does something out of the step with maybe where they're at.
Yeah, so two big things with curiosity. So with curiosity, why has this happened?
Ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions, but also yourself thinking, why has this happened? The kind of, there's got to be consequences, but not punishments, and that should be the last
What's
thing
the
that we
difference
step
between
to.
punishment and consequence?
So punishment is to hurt someone. A punishment is to make them feel bad about themselves. It's to make them, it's almost to burn their hand so they don't touch it again. But that's not what we're talking about. There's no skill development in that. You just go, I'm never going to touch that thing again. You don't understand why it burnt or why it hurt or why you've got to be careful around it. Consequence is something that the kid actually understands. They know it before it happens. So they go, if I do that again, I've agreed and understand why this is the consequence of it.
Can you give me the stove example, because you've just done it with punishment? Give me the stove example. How
stove example of consequences is, mate, this is hot. I'm going to show you. I'm going to talk to you about it. We've got to be careful around it. The consequence is that even if you know that and you purposefully go, then it will burn you. But if it burns you, I'm also partially to blame. Does that make sense? It's the same as so the kid that's stealing is never on his own. It's all everyone's responsibility. The parent, the teachers, the community. I see lots of kids that are stealing, carrying around knives, like doing really antisocial stuff as teenagers. That is not their fault entirely. It is the consequence of kind of everyone needing to do better. The curiosity is just the first step, though, about like what's going on. You also need to stand next to the child and figure out, I'm supporting you to be better than that because I know you're better than that. I'm not challenging who you are, but I'm with you and I'm going to ride this journey with you to figure out how we can do better than this because I know you're better than that. And I'm going to figure it out with you. I'm not going to say, you're better than that, sort it out. Here's a punishment. I'm going to say, I wonder why this has happened because I know you're better than that. I'm not expecting you on your own to come up with the answer. We figure out the answer together and then we journey together for you to succeed better and we figure out what are the consequences next time in case this happens. But it also should almost be a consequence for me. If Evie keeps repeating a behaviour, I've got to go, man, I'm 40. I should be figuring she's 2. I should be taking more responsibility than her for her failing at something that I should be guiding her on. So you've got to check ourselves a little bit first and go, why am I punishing a 2-year-old when actually it's my responsibility to guide them in this stuff?
All right. A lot to do when I get home. Billy, how to navigate conflict in another child's parent if the other child, how to navigate conflict between 2 kids if the other child's parent is providing conflicting advice.
Yeah, great opportunity to role model conflict resolution.
Okay.
So what do you want to do?
What?
So what do you want to do? Like if you're you know that the other parent is like, they said it's fine to leave those kids out. Like we've got a lot of questions about that we had to leave out. Like my kid is leaving other kids out. My kid's friends with someone who's leaving someone out. Mm-hmm. It's exclusionary behaviour, like all of that stuff. I really worry about it. So what you want to do is give an opportunity to role model to your child what conflict resolution looks like, and it's not instantly dismissing that other person's advice or guidance. Saying they're wrong.
Got any steps on conflict resolution?
Yeah. So what you want to do is that example is just a bit vague, but just short. So the parents going, no, I think that's wrong. It's fine for the child to do that, for example. And what you want to do is then step through and say, I wonder why that parent thinks that's okay. Like maybe they don't understand this bit. I wonder what their reasoning is. So you want to take your child through. And this is kind of older kids. This is obviously not a 5-year-old.
Okay.
But you want to step them through and say and show them like the reasoning that you're going through really transparently that gets you to the point where you go, but I still think because of this reason that this is what we should do. Does that make sense?
Love it.
So what you've shown is you've shown your process instead of just going because I said so.
Well, school is all about showing the working out, Billy. I remember that from mathematics.
Yes.
Show us your reasoning.
Yeah, exactly. Have we got to the homework bit yet? No, I don't think we have. I think it's coming.
It's coming. Billy, as teachers, we wish we could spend more time nurturing data-driven results and not allowing this.
Yeah, it's the wrong data. So I completely understand what the person's saying. Internationally, we look at like how good kids are reading and writing and doing maths, and that's the determinant of how good the school is. It's ridiculous because it's not the life skills that they need. They do need them a bit, don't get me wrong, but, like how many of us are doing algebra as adults? So we're getting a little bit better. We tested one through my PhD about thinking about, or tested a few actually. One was teachers' capacity and confidence in dealing with mental health.
Yeah.
That's a validated measure we ran through the schools. And there's another one where we looked at, a single item question just in terms of how all the kids in this school are going and measuring that in terms of their emotions and their behaviours. So it's kind of a really good metric to start putting into schools, but we've got to test them properly. We can't do this quickly is the problem. But 100% agree that it's really ridiculous. It's really funny, very quickly, a lot of clinicians say that maternal child health nurses used to be able to just really have a lot of room to move in their visits around how they build relationships with families, and then a lot of metric stuff came in and said, well, you have to do this tick box, you need to do this sheet, you need to fill this out. And they're like, where do I fit in the bit where I help gain the trust of this family? So we've got to be careful that we don't put a lot of stuff onto professionals that are at the coalface with families. We give them the space to build trust and relationships and comfort and nurturing things.
Beautiful. Billy, when to worry that your child is not interested in school, smart and able 3rd graders struggling.
Yeah. Then that's a concern. Any kid that's not kind of seeing the benefits and enjoying school, find out why. And it's not kind of on the parent or the kid on their own to figure it out. But ideally, every kid is going to school and seeing it. There are some positive elements. I ask every kid that's in school, one of the first questions I ask is, what do you like about school? What don't you like about school? I worry the most when the kid can't give me an answer to either of them. But I see a lot of kids where they're not sure about what they do like about school. For a lot of kids, it's like the playground, seeing my mates. And I'm always like, oh, we need better than that. But then a lot of the kids can give me a long list of stuff they don't like about school. And I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks, because I don't know about you, I definitely had windows like that, but it definitely wasn't good for my development or mental health to be in an environment that I didn't enjoy being in for 6 hours a day.
I probably wasn't that self-reflective at the time, but if something, no one really ever asked me, I don't think.
Oh, yeah, I tried to get out of school heaps.
Yeah.
Me and my best mate used to hang out in the back of the Frankston City Council waiting for my mum to finish work. And this is pathetic, but we used to eat dandelions thinking it would make us sick so that we wouldn't have to go to school next day.
Oh, Billy. Hey, Billy, how do you know if you're failing?
Yeah, so without getting too philosophical, we're all failing, aren't we?
Yeah.
Have you met a parent that's like...
No, I haven't. I always just focus on like 80%. I'm like, I get most of it right. Always room for improvement.
Exactly, but you have to fail to get better at something.
But mate, like, as if it can be perfect. Like every day is a new challenge.
Yeah, definitely. But you've got to have an acceptance that we learn through failure. Like the Adventure Time quote, I think I've said it before on this. The first step to being good at something is sucking at it.
Yep.
You have to do that. You have to. We train our the pediatric trainees through this. They have to do like a big oral presentation where they meet a family and then present it to a panel and say, this is my plan and all this stuff. And the bit they struggle with is they never want to present because they're like, I want to wait till I'm good at it before I do it in front of people. And I'm like, you have to be bad at it in front of people first. So failure is a big part of growth. And any parent that's listening to this is a really great way, because it's not just because of the stuff that you and I are saying, but you're hearing all these other people that are trying to get better at it as well. So all of us are. A bit more specifically, very quickly, if you're talking specifically about school success, if you're worried that your child is not enjoying this experience, they're not having growth, they're not increasing their social and emotional skills, they're, really struggling to create friendships, their self-esteem is not improving as they go through school, for example, their ability to empathise with other kids is not improving, their ability to understand, social situations and succeed in them, that is a concern to say, hey, something's going wrong here, we should be doing better. And then reach out to everyone around you.
Okay, good advice. Thank you, Billy. Billy, how to teach a child that success is trying and persisting rather than being right?
Yeah, so this is slightly different, because we do worry about a lot of kids that are like, I have to be right all the time. So that's a bit of a red flag, the kid that always has to be right. And actually it's a sign of fragility and self-esteem.
Yeah, so they don't like the feeling of being wrong.
Yeah, but they can't handle it. They can't take that feedback.
Okay, what do you do?
So you are aware of that. So in the kids, and the younger kids is different to the older kids. In the younger kids, you've just got to really gently increase their tolerance of feedback that isn't perfect, and affirming that they're correct and they're the winner and all that stuff. You can talk about feelings of disappointment and jealousy and things like that, and really build their emotional literacy or understanding or vocabulary around that. I know that you feel like you should have won because of this, or that you should be right, or that you're better than other people. I understand that feeling and validate it, but help them kind of move within that to a bit of growth that can understand why they're feeling like that.
How do you, when your kid fails at something they're not good at, but they also, hang on, if your kid fails a race attempt or something, but they haven't put in the work and they're young, how do you address it?
Yeah, so you validate what experience they've had. That must really suck. What do you think we can do next time so that you can do better at it?
Yeah.
And then put the effort in with them.
Okay.
Be like, does this matter to you? If they don't really care about it, it's fine. Just give it that opportunity to be like, I'm going to connect with you. I'm going to build our relationship here. I'm going to support you. And I'm going to help you understand and process the feelings that you're having. But if they don't really care about winning races, then that's the kind of full stop to it. If you're like, actually, this is starting to become a bit of their identity, they do really care about making it onto the basketball team, getting better at piano, whatever, then you have to do the effort with them, and you celebrate the effort and you enjoy the effort. That's the tough bit.
Yeah.
Because you're like rolling your eyes going, this bloody piano sounds terrible. But the kid will be picking that up. You've got to remember they pick that up. Yes. It's a lot of the time we put negativity and shame around stuff. Toilet training is the classic. It's like every single kid takes longer to toilet train because we're like, oh, God, you've had another accident. Oh, I can't believe this. You know what I mean? And that's the opposite of what we should be doing. We should be like, it's cool. This is part of it. Like, we'll figure it out together. Same with learning piano, getting better at the races, all that stuff.
Yep. Fair. Billy, should we be helping our kids with homework? Some experts say it's between kids and the teachers.
Yeah, this is great because this has actually been debated for over 100 years. So back in like the 20s and 30s, paediatricians like 100 years ago came out and were like, this is bad for kids. You know, they should be out there on the streets playing stickball or whatever it was.
Stickball.
Whatever it was. And there was a pullback where they went, sweet, let's stop doing this. Then 50s, 60s, especially for America, no, we want to thrive. We want kids to be nailing it academically. We're going to be the strongest nation. We're going to be the strongest community, the strongest school. And it all came back in again. And then there was a pushback a couple of decades later. What the evidence shows is that the hours that a child spends in a week in homework is not a determinant of how well they would do academically. There is even some evidence internationally that countries where they do more and more homework perform worse. It's not a general rule, but it shows you how varied it is. The interesting bit is that some of the stuff that is helpful to think about is in the older kids, so kind of second half of high school, homework can be helpful, going back to what you were talking about, for them to understand the processes around what they're learning. So not kind of the repetitive, just do heaps of sheets or do heaps of stuff, but to understand the processes. The problem is often, and this is going to happen very early for me, the teachers are the best person equipped at understanding the process. Like I'm going to tap out very quick. I'm going to tap out years before you will in maths, where I'm like, I actually don't understand this. And so I'm not the best person to be teaching it to Evie. So you want to make sure schools have the opportunity to give that to people. Now, about 22% of kids will have some difficulty in aspects of their learning. The best thing you can do for those kids, for people who have capacity, is a focused tutor who understands exactly what they're doing and they're really skilled, not some random person who just sits there and does maths with them, but someone who understands the way that kids learn. It needs to be tailored to that specific child's way of learning. Now, it's hard to access for some people, but it just shows you've got to figure out how your kid learns and then help them with the specific hurdle that they've got when they're reading, writing, maths, whatever it is. But yeah, there's no universal rule that homework is good for all kids. And I would rather a kid is in a situation like a sporting team or something like that where they get to build their relationships and their emotional skills over they get to practice their handwriting.
Gotcha.
Every day of the week.
Every day of the week.
Every day of the week.
Every day. Billy, tips for a 5-year-old boy who seems to be socially but not emotionally secure. He can talk to a lamppost.
Yeah, so really...
So the parent said they can talk to a lamppost.
Yeah. So really good differentiator between the difference between social and emotional skills. So that parent's doing it really well. You just got to get a bit narrower. What aspect of it are they struggling with in their emotional development? Is it their emotional regulation? Is it their understanding of other people's emotions? Is it their emotional language? So you want to be focusing a bit more narrowly than just their emotions or their emotional development and think, what bit of it am I struggling with? If it's empathy, help them build their empathy. Okay. Go to where they're at and stretch them.
Okay, maybe just coming back to the examples you touched on a bit earlier around like they don't deal well with like feedback and emotionally they get charged from that. So what would you do with this particular child?
Yeah, exactly. So in environments where they feel calm and that comes out and they're not completely dysregulated, that
not
all
the
their
playground,
peers watching them.
not the party,
yeah, they're not exhausted.
not on a big play date.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
You give them some of that feedback and you gently get down to their level and support them and connect with them and co-regulate with them, all the stuff we've done, and then go, sweet, I'm helping you process this feeling of this feedback coming and it completely throwing you out.
I know I'm a parent of a 5-year-old, but what's something you'd give feedback on to a kid?
If I've seen you do this, you give Freddie feedback all the time.
I do?
Yeah.
I just have a mental blank. Maybe I'm just really...
So remember when they were playing the game where it was like pass the parcel?
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, you can't put the rabbit back in the box because she was like putting them back in after the kids had got them and you were guiding her through it.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because it was just a bit beyond her ability. She had 2 little kids that she was trying to play a game with.
Tough.
She's trying to have this leadership position.
Yep,
you were there scaffolding it for her. You know,
Okay.
You weren't saying you stuffed it up. Okay. You were like, no, here, and you were correcting her and adjusting her in a way that she didn't feel like, I've completely blown this. She throws the bag, goes stuff you, and goes and cries. Do you know what I mean? That's not because she's done it wrong. It's because the support wasn't right. But you were supporting her in a way that she kept succeeding at the game, and you were giving her slight adjustments with constant reinforcement.
Tweaks, reinforcement.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a perfect example of like someone who, in time, giving them that support and guidance.
Okay. Thank you. Good real world example. Hey, Billy, best way to check in on your daycare staff to get more than a good day.
Go.
This is me every single day. I walk in. Hey, how'd they go? Good day? That's all I say.
Yeah. Do you think you'd know if there wasn't a good day?
Yeah.
How?
Well, no.
Oh, I think
Yes,
you would.
and yeah. I mean, yes, but I mean, you can catch a moment where they're dysregulating at 5:30 on a hot day, and they've been stuck inside because they can't be outside because it's so hot. Yeah, yes, I agree with you. I think. Would you try and maybe before you turn the door handle, be like, what's something that they've been struggling with at home recently, and maybe I can ask about that. So something really specific.
What's the step before that?
I don't know.
Why is the educator going to invest extra time?
Because you've already you're working on something already. You flagged it before. So you might have said
But
it'll
even
drop off.
before that. Damn it. You do this. I've seen you. Even before we started the podcast, walking into that daycare with you is like...
Build a relationship.
Yeah.
Build relationships.
Yeah.
So then you can work on something together if there's something specific to work on you're worried about.
So if you walk in, you've never met the educator and you go, hey, I want you to give my kid specific focus. I want a 15-minute conversation every time I pick the kid up. I want you to give me a report on how they're going. I want you to give my kid special attention. Person's going to be like, hey, I'm Sam.
New starters, I'm going to catch up here. So if we've got new kids, just start with building a relationship with a teacher. Find some common ground.
Yeah, find some common ground, learn about them. Show that you care about them, the position they're in. How can I help you? How can I contribute to this school community? How can I help you in supporting my child? All those things, and then it comes back to you.
Supporting this classroom that they're in.
Yeah, or even just my child. Is there, I want to be open. What I want to do when Evie starts school is that the teacher can come to me and feels 100% safe going, hey, Evie's making things a bit tough because she's doing X. Yes. She's disruptive.
Yes.
She's doing those things. The risk is the teacher doesn't feel comfortable coming to me. I don't hear about it.
No, might as well go speak to another parent that does feel comfortable hearing about it.
Yeah, this is not a pathway for me. So being really obvious and open.
Pathway's a two-way. It's a two-way street, Billy.
It is a two-way street. Yeah, there's people who do not get paid enough to just be like, oh, yeah, I'll do exactly what you tell me when you tell me, but there's no relationship in it. So if we want them to, do that, we need to do it with them and help them and two-way street, all that stuff.
You're very good at this. You're very good at this. Say it every week at one point. Very good. Billy, any advice for a parent with a 4-year-old going into kindy who has zero interest in writing or picking up pencils and paint?
Yeah, so part of me, when I first read that, I was like, oh, who cares? But it actually might be important, but it's just really don't be like, well, you have to paint, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's more just exploring, is there a vulnerability in some aspect of their fine motor development, for example, that I need to think about? How are they going with other elements of their fine motor? Is it just a motivation thing? It's not something that they care about. If it's not something that they care about and, you'd notice a big difference, chat to their kinder educators and go, hey, I've noticed that he really doesn't care about this. Do you think it matters? If they're like, no, you know what? He's nailing everything else. He'll figure that out and he'll get to it. Sweet. If they're like, yeah, actually it is kind of isolating him a bit from the group play stuff and all those things, then think about how do I pair it to something he does enjoy. So he loves just throwing stuff around. He loves being out in the garden doing things. He loves doing that. How do I bring this into it a little bit? Not so I go, cool, you love tearing around. Here, sit down on a table, on a chair, do the painting. I know you hate it. I'll reinforce how much you hate it by forcing you to do it every day. You know what I mean? That's not the way to do it. That's the kid who eventually becomes to despise that thing. So it's about how do we do it gently, tie it to something that they enjoy already, all that stuff.
Okay, brilliant. Hey, Billy, I wish I was more okay to not strive for academic success. My autistic son learns heaps, but it doesn't show in exam results because he hates tests. I am fine with it, but family elders want to reprimand me for it.
Yeah, that must be infuriating. And I completely agree with that person. And I think, very gently show the other people that are around you where success exists for that child. And yes, and the academic, as I've said, I'm a broken record on this, but the academic success will not be the determinant of lifelong success for that child. So, but very gently, instead of just saying you're wrong, actually how good they are at reading or the results they get on tests is not going to be the thing that ensures whether they thrive or not. Think about this is the stuff that they're awesome at. This is where they succeed at it. This is how you can be a part of reinforcing that and supporting their self-esteem and how they feel about themselves.
Cool. Billy, how do I support a child in the school system when I often clash with the values of education?
Yeah, great. That's our last short. But the big thing about this is that understandably, the system is what's broken, not the people that are in that system, either the educators or leadership or whatever. I think it's understandable to just be like, this drives me nuts, focus on your child and try not to let the system drag you down. If you have the capacity, think about how whatever your skill set and expertise is can contribute to the system getting better through either advocacy or bringing in the skills that you have or doing whatever it is, contributing to that school community, volunteering your time, thinking about how can I overcome some of the challenges that this system has. It's quite interesting. I've never gone to a school that didn't have lots of people that were really passionately trying to work hard for all the kids in their community. It's just the system is so broken in so many ways that it means that it just ties both their hands behind their back sometimes.
Okay.
So I understand that sentiment, but if you have the capacity, then, you know, like you and I are doing with this, think about what can you do to try and make things better.
Okay, cool. Billy, all right. So we're about to kick off our long questions here. Now, public speaking, I'm pretty comfortable with. Public reading for the new listeners. Not going to focus on it. Don't want to draw too much attention
In
to
your
it.
defence, I think I sent them to you at midnight last night.
No, it's fine. I read them. I've had to practice in the car. I do my best. All right? So just...
And we also, just before we get
gentle.
into the deep, and the questions will be longer than the answers for some of them because they're so powerful, but we had lots of questions. 99% of them didn't make the cut because of how many, but we also got lots of questions about bullying. We got lots of questions about self-esteem. We got lots of questions about kids who can't come to school. We've done those topics before, so please go back to them.
You've gone deep on those topics,
Yeah,
Billy.
so I didn't.
Specifics.
So they instantly didn't make it because I'm like, we've done it. And there were ones that were slightly off topic that will be in future topics. So every single question's been read and will inform what we do if we haven't covered it already or in the ones that are coming.
Self-esteem. I think it's your favourite. Could be your favourite, Smokey, I reckon.
Yeah.
Favourite topic we did.
Great movie as well.
Yeah, pretty one. Awesome. Billy, all right, long questions. Here we go, guys. Hi, Nick and Dr. Billy. It might be beyond the scope of the school success episode, but I'd love it if you spoke sometime about choosing the right school for a child's emotional, social and academic development. Feels like the biggest single decision a parent makes, and many private schools require applications years in advance, long before grasping your child's unique needs. I think coeducational, non-selective schooling, like I attended, can be great for social and emotional development, but many are less academically supportive. If I hadn't worked extremely hard and been highly self-motivated, including self-teaching myself some subjects, I wouldn't have succeeded in my goal to get into medical school. On the other hand, I worry that highly academic and competitive selective schools could foster stress and anxiety and put a disproportionate focus on academia and are almost exclusively single sex, which might not prepare teenagers for the social dynamics of the world beyond high school. Thanks. What a question.
Amazing question. So a few things. How did you pick the school?
Proximity.
Yeah, but not just that.
If
they'd have been
there were other schools I
Yeah.
could have chosen. I got a recommendation from others that had kids attending. I
Yeah.
spoke to my friend that has the 3 kids there. I was like, I've known this person for many years, 30 plus years. And I was like, hey, new to the area, what do you reckon of the schools? And we just sort of nutted it out. This was years ago and then reaffirmed it earlier in the year. Then, yeah.
And this is not your first rodeo. How'd you pick daycare?
Well, actually, I chose one that was best for my kid because I had been to a couple and actually ended up pulling them out and moving them, which isn't
Yes.
uncommon in daycare. Probably
No.
less common in school to move.
Yes, but it shouldn't
frequently.
be seen as not an option in school because it's not set in stone.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, a journey with lots of kids that'll change school, go to a special school, move, things like that. And they should never see that it's set in stone. It's got to show us that it's right for the kid. It is really hard when you've got to enrol so far out. There was a lot of questions about private versus public schools, like, my own journey. It's interesting to listen to that person's question and be like the goal of med school. I had no goals like that through school. Like as I've mentioned on the podcast before, I got kicked out of school and all of the schools that rejected me would have been the wrong school for me. Like we went to every single school and the school that finally accepted me before I wasn't going to be able to finish school, I just remember going there and I was ready for a fight. And then they were just like, here's the, requirements for the subject. And then I didn't hand something in and I was ready for an argument. And there was no argument. They were just like, oh, you just get a 0. And I was like, Oh, God. And that was what I needed. I needed that independence. I needed that lack of conflict. I needed that authority figure to not be standing over me all the time. And that was what was right for me. Now, that's just unique to that school, and that's why I was there. So the point of that story is that what the right school is different for every single child. You know, and this is hard because we have siblings. So you'll go to the school. I went to the school my older brother went to. It was an awful school. It was the worst school for me to go to, but that's where I went and had an awful time there. And thank God I got kicked out. But it was just like, oh, that's where you'll go because of proximity, and it's where your older brother went. But it's an interesting thing now that very quickly the evidence, what we show, we published this maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We've talked about the things that show that a school does well is that they have leadership that supports educators. Supports them in not just sticking to curriculum, getting extra professional development, practicing in a way that's unique to them, all of that stuff. We also know being well connected to the community is really important, a sign of a good school. Especially clinical avenues. So they know all the clinicians, the psychologists, the therapists, the developmental pediatricians like me in the community. And those schools I work with, it's an amazing opportunity. They're also led by the evidence. Now that's hard, there's not a lot of evidence. Most of what's in schools is not evidence-based, but evidence leads their resources and their strategies. So the schools can say, this is what we're doing about bullying, this is what we're doing about inclusion, and it's really descriptive and it shows that there's consistency across the school environment. When the school environment changes from classroom to classroom or environment or setting to setting, kids look around and they seek where that threat is coming from. That lack of consistency can be really challenging. And then, the last thing is that they're really open to learning. And they're really thinking about how can we get better at doing this. But the reality is that the right school is different for every single child, and you will watch Freddie and see how she goes. The first adjustment should be, as we've talked about, going into partnership with the school if she's struggling and all those things. But you might get to a situation where you're like, this actually isn't the right place for her, and you shouldn't feel tied to it if that is the case.
Okay, good. I like it.
Hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's something that we'll figure out together.
We'll figure it out. I'll be asking you.
Yeah, I'll be asking you if it happens.
Hey, Nick and Billy, I'm your biggest fan. I tell anyone who listens about the pod, a highlight of my life is when you read a short question I made in the pod last year. Your guidance and what I feel like is friendship through my parenting journey has been incredible. My 18-month-old daughter and I listen to you every second Monday on our hour drive to daycare. Oh, I wish you guys were my dads. I
think he's speaking to you there.
No, I don't think so. Hey, I've been struggling the past 2 weeks with our return to daycare, not exactly school. I got a call because since returning this new year, my daughter has been pulling hair and biting other children. I tried to contain how upset I was at the information to not make it a big deal, but I ended up crying in the car. She's a beautiful, independent, sweet girl, but does get rough with us and thinks it's a game. I did some reading and took a day off work to stay at daycare to help and observe. It seems like sharing toys is the trigger. Wow. Bloody good by this parent.
Yeah.
She's our only child and probably hasn't had many opportunities for us to scaffold sharing. I'm trying to schedule more time with other kids so we can work on it, but worry about, hey, can our kid practice not biting your kid? Plus, we can't be there at daycare. I'm really worried about this time when they're not there. I feel powerless and don't know what to do. Thanks for all your help. I understand how busy you both are and I'm stoked the pod is taking off. Should be compulsory listening for parents.
Okay, what do you got? 18-month-old constantly biting. Daycare's talking about it and saying, hey, this is an issue.
I will hopefully I've built a relationship with daycare.
Yeah.
And if I haven't, I'm going to fast track that, which this parent has taken a day off work and sat there and observed.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
That's a huge
Yeah, no, they're amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's doing a great job.
I am going to not use daycare as the practice place. I'll try and get it at home in a more level environment and model it and then look for some opportunities, maybe one-to-one with some other kids. And then after leading in, you can't really tell an 18-month-old, hey, we're practicing on not biting today, but afterwards, I can't remember what an 18-month-old looks like. Go, great effort today playing. So what in the moment, give them the effort, and then at the end of the day say you're really good. But they're 18 months, so I don't know. Is that pitch too high?
With everything, regardless of age, what do we do about unwanted behaviours?
understand the emotion going on underneath it.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay,
I didn't think of
no,
that, but that's
dunno.
awesome.
Don't. What do we do?
So what do we want them doing instead?
Oh, focus. No, don't tell them not to bite. Don't draw attention to that. Don't say don't. Instead, refocus on what you want them to do.
Yeah, because there's two things with this kid.
Yeah.
We've already realised that sometimes it's not an issue for these kids because it's like, yeah, they're just that age. They don't understand. They're snatching everything. But the daycare has said it and the dad has realised, this is an issue. So there's two things. There's a lack of a skill development or there's emotional dysregulation that's leading to it. Now, both of them are a bit the same in that what you don't want to do is unintentionally reinforce the biting, the hitting, whatever it is.
Correct.
What a lot of the time the mistake that we make is the kid who lashes out, like this will happen with the girls.
Constantly.
They battle,
Yep.
they're struggling at something, they hit each other, whatever, scream, you go in, you unintentionally reinforce that help-seeking method. They go, cool, that worked. Next time, sister's annoying me, I'll scream. So what you want to do is, what do I want them doing instead? I want them problem solving. I want them sharing. I want them understanding it's not nice to the other person.
Yeah.
I want them gently taking stuff. I want them being careful with how their hands.
We also let them know that they can't bite and no one can bite them.
Totally, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
I did that one this week.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, and you want to think about, I want to make sure I'm not unintentionally reinforcing the negative behaviour or the unwanted behaviour, and I want to guide them at a developmentally appropriate level to what I do want them to be doing with 100% support at the start. Then over repetition, that will wire in their behavioural mannerisms and what they do and how they interact with others. And then you gently back off and watch that they're still succeeding. If they're biting, it's because you backed off too quick and you go back in. Like you said, scaffolded, like I totally understand, but this is not the parent that is going to just be like, sweet, I just want my kid to be over there 10 metres away from you, just biting your kid until they stop doing it. Which does happen, but clearly not with this dad. He's going to be like, I'm not saying, hey, can my kid come over so they can practice not biting you? I'm going to be scaffolding it and supporting it and right on top of them while they're doing it.
Hey, just quick one. How would you accidentally or unintentionally reinforce the behaviour? What would that be?
Everything you give attention to, you reinforce.
Gotcha. Don't bite them. Stop biting them.
Or just even going in. Big reaction. Oh my God. Oh, I can't believe that's happened. Quickly picking them up, doing all that stuff. Understandable.
What would you do other...
Safety perspective, you can't be like, hey, I'm just letting this slide because I don't want to reinforce it. Gotcha. It's gone. The time the kid is bitten, it's gone. But if your only strategy is I'm going to go and pick you up and I'm going to take you out and I'm going to yell at you or get upset or I'm going to take that thing off you, you are unintentionally reinforcing it.
Gotcha.
You've missed the boat.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean you can miss the boat 40% of the time.
Yeah.
You just got to be in there sometimes, catching it early.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
They will get better at something the more times they succeed at it.
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
with everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
When you unpack it, yes, you're correct. I get it. No.
But that's everything. That's the 17-year-old that's hitting a wall at something. You're like, what do I want you doing instead? How do I go in there and reinforce that?
Yeah.
You tell me to get stuffed. I blow up and say, get to your room, I'll take something off you. You're not going to not tell me to get stuffed again or genuinely understand it hurt me or anything like that. What I want is, how do I want you to talk to me and interact and be a part of this family? How do I guide you towards that and then reinforce when you do it? And that's how you push out the stuff you don't want or that isn't helping them or that's impacting their self-esteem or their relationships or whatever. What do I want them doing instead?
Cool. You're right. Hi, Nick and Billy. My husband and I are long-time listeners. We love the podcast. It's been a great resource for us as we ride the parenting roller coaster. My question is around childcare drop-off challenges, separation anxiety, transition to kinder, and bigger room struggles. Our little 3-year-old lady has been in childcare since she was 1. While she has always had a good time there and has formed friendships, she has always had a hard time in separation from me, Mum. It started to get better last year as she got older and formed closer attachments with her carers. We tried different tactics like letting her take a comfort toy and would talk to her about what we would do at pickup, whether she'd like a particular snack or whether she wanted to play, who she wanted to play with or what we play with when we got home. The educators try to assist when they can by directing her to a job or task when we get there too. Recently, we started to get more resistance to attending. We got more resistance to attending, and we'd had a bad day where she refused to even walk in the centre. It ended up with both of us in tears, and I kept her home for the day. We worked with the educators to understand why she could be resisting so hard all of a sudden and found out that they had started talking about moving her up to the next kinder room. She was fearful of this change, even though her favourite educator was moving up with her. They started talking about it with her more and more, so did we. We closed out the year on a goodish note with drop-offs improving for a week or two. Room transitions have started and the resistance has returned tenfold. Today, she didn't want to get out of bed. Getting ready was a struggle, and she was very upset when dropped off at childcare, had to be pulled off me by the educators. I tried to stay a little longer to help settle her in the room, but wonder if that makes it worse. She's a brilliant little girl. We just want to succeed. Last year was a big year for her and our family. We welcomed her brother in July, which was hard for her as I'm the preferred parent. We are also toilet training as well, so she's got a lot going on. I'm going to keep working with the centre to work out how to do better to support her, but I wonder if you had any advice on how me and my husband can help support her during separation and creating a positive association with childcare. Thanks very much for reading this, if you do so. Been there.
Yes.
Been
yeah,
here.
same.
I haven't that tough one, not getting out of bed. That's a level I haven't been, but I've had the failed drop off. I've had the one where I return home with the child and mum looks at you and you go, yeah, not today. And mum's like, okay. I'm like, yeah, she's home. I've had it.
Yeah. Oh, even your
Mum
bit
looks-
about the PJs is so funny. You were like, but it was beautiful. It's right.
one?
You were like, when we're just going to get going through a window here where we're not getting out of pajamas.
A window,
Yeah.
a year. I'm not exaggerating. A year, 50% plus in pajamas. I was like, yeah.
Did it matter though?
Nah, flannel's comfortable. I get it. Didn't care.
Yes. Yeah.
Swear to God, a year, minimum 50% of the time in pajamas.
Yeah.
Used to really ruin the pajama day thrill for everyone else. but you know, yeah, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, exactly. So beautiful. We had dozens of questions about separation anxiety, so let's talk to it properly. This parent has done a phenomenal job of exploring what might be going on underneath, and they've got a lot of the answers that they already have in the question. They've talked to the educators, found the source, going up the room, all that stuff. So separation anxiety is a normal developmental experience from kids from about 7 to 8 months of age to about a year and a half. Especially kids with sensitive temperaments, we get that big kick in stranger danger. I don't want to leave this primary caregiver. I don't want to leave this space that I feel comfortable in.
Yep.
Now, about 4 to 5% of kids will have what's called clinical. Separation anxiety is a form of anxiety, and about 4 to 5% of kids will have clinical separation anxiety, and it can be a sign of future anxiety, future things like struggling at school, self-esteem, all of that stuff. So it's a really good thing to catch. The average age that we diagnose it is about 7, so classic early primary school, struggling to be in that environment. This is a child who's beyond that normal window of separation anxiety, but is struggling. We know kids are also more likely to have separation anxiety if there's stresses in their life, like a new child, changing an environment, going up in a new class, environment of education like kinder, or moving house, or family dysfunction, stresses and stuff like that. They just come in. Circle of security shows us. They tighten their window, come in, want to be more closer to their primary caregivers that provide that safety and security. Now, what do you do? We unintentionally will reinforce separation anxiety sometimes when we provide the comfort, or we worsen it when we say bad luck you're going, and you just peel them off you. There is a third option, and it's where we should sit. You still validate their experience and connect with them and co-regulate with them. But what you want to do is help them understand why they're struggling with that. It's because I'm leaving. It's because I'm going to go. And then you want to build their capacity to self-soothe. Now, you can do this from 2.5, 3 years of age. I was doing it with Evie. I was doing it with Evie yesterday to the point where I said to Annalise, I'll give her a break. She needs to settle. Evie's been sick. I'll help her fall asleep. And we were just doing some deep breathing stuff. And then Annalise came in and I was starting to nod off. And Evie's sitting there with her eyes bright open. And I was like, oh, whoops, I've gone too far with this. But deep breathing and just muscle tension and relaxation can be really good for the younger age group kids about just self-soothing. And you want them to learn that strategy so that that's what they use is when they start to really feel that separation anxiety. So validate it, recognize it, connect with them, and then help them learn the capacity to drop their stress levels. It's really important. A lot of us haven't learned this as adults.
How do they do it?
So you sit there with them and you do it. You do it in environments they're comfortable in, low levels of distress, short bouts of separation, when ideally another caregiver or whatever is there doing it with them. It's not that the final is the game day, your first day of primary school, you're going to be spending 6 hours in this crazy environment. You've got to build their capacity before that, but recognising that. Now, the older kids, the 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, you work more on how they think about this and recognising what you want them to recognise. And this is a beautiful thing that we can do for lots of kids that have anxiety, is have an internal recognition of this is why I'm feeling anxious. So the first step is I feel hot, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm scared, my tummy's rumbling, I'm tense, I just really want to run, and recognising that and validating that. And then them learning, I think it's because you're leaving me. I think it's because I'm worried you're not going to come back. I think it's all those things. And then you want to help them learn what else might be going on, what else might happen. Actually, maybe you'll have a really good time here. Maybe it'll be fun. Maybe, we'll come and do something on the other side of it. If you go straight to that, you miss all the other stuff, and that will very rarely work. If you just go, it'll be fine. You haven't helped them recognise, validate, learn the coping mechanisms, all that stuff. But you can do that in a really basic level from 2.5, 3 years age. I do it with Evie at least once a day. We practice that stuff.
Okay. Good. Yep. Sorry, you give me all this, and I'm like, God, got to get home and practice it. All right. It's really good.
No, but that parent's amazing. They've already done half that work.
Yeah, I know. I love the answers in the questions. Hey, Billy, question 4. Hello, superstars. Thanks for all that you do. So my son is starting school this year, I worry about how he plays with other kids, particularly boys. We moved him to the kinder opposite school last year to help him transition. We don't live in the area, and the students at kinder grew up together. He doesn't play with them so much as play with the same games as them on the outskirts. He's trying to include himself with little response from the other kids, gets bossed around or dismissed. Eventually, he will move away to entertain himself. It's hard to watch him be excited to play with certain kids and see it not reciprocated. He's been invited to some of their birthdays, which is a positive sign, but I'm unsure whether that has to do with the kids' actual friendships. He gets along with the girls pretty well. I don't want to stereotype, but it could be that my baby gets pretty chatty with the girls, can keep up
And
with
the girls.
his prattling.
Yeah.
The girls can keep up with his prattling. Sorry, Billy. How do I help scaffold opportunities for him to develop?
Yeah, what do you think?
That's really tough. Tough.
Makes you hard a bit, doesn't it? He's like trying, and then he's off on the side just doing it on his own. And
I've only seen it a couple of times where, like, I think I said on the podcast, daughter goes in and it just wasn't reciprocated, and you're like,
what did you do?
They weren't. They
What'd
weren't
you do
fussed
for
at the time. I would chat to them if they coming to me, or I go and speak to them.
Oh, I just mean first for Freddie. What do you do?
Talk to them about it and see if they've got issue with it.
You
Like
just
say it's
comfort
a
her
big
and
deal.
connect with her and
Yeah.
make sure she's okay
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Yeah,
Sorry.
and so
Yeah.
no,
I did
totally.
all
I know
that.
you do that. I've
Yeah.
seen you do it heaps. But yeah, so it's so what we want to be thinking is, and it's interesting with the girls. There's a couple of beautiful bits of information here. He does really well with the girls, so he's probably got a relative strength in his kind of verbal social skills. So because girls are usually more advanced in that.
Yes.
So he's kind of going over there and he's got these real strength in that. And so he leans on it and he succeeds in it. It might be that he's got a relative weakness in some of the other elements of social skill development, like just showing interest in what the other kid's doing. There's also a suggestion, which comes up in a later question, that there might be a bit of vulnerability and self-esteem for this little boy, that he's kind of trying and then coming off to the side and those things. So at this age, there shouldn't be like these secure social circles that you can't come in on. And I know that there is that concern that he's not part of this community. But at this age, there's a lot of flexibility and malleability in social groups. So he should be kind of coming in initiating and succeeding in that. Not all the time, but enough. So it probably shows he's got a relative vulnerability in his non-verbal social skills. So trying to come in and say, hey, what are you doing? What's happening? And watching him and seeing how he's going. Like everything, when there's 4 or 5 other boys, that's too much for him to overcome. So how can we go, let's get him around just 1 or 2 other boys and scaffold in. And what you do is ideally, which is what you do amazing, you go, sweet, you're all coming to my house. This is the place that he feels the most comfortable. Yeah. So the birthday parties will be good because you'll get good observation and it's a good sign that he's getting invited. But actually do stuff where, you can be like, this is the place he feels the safest. It's all his awesome toys. I can scaffold it. I can make it a really fun opportunity for 1 or 2 other kids that are boys that come around and they have fun. And it's a short, sharp, successful thing that they burst and they're gone. And what you should find is that after a number of those opportunities, that friendship deepens, like we've talked about in the past. Friendships, a lot of kids will be fine superficially, but they struggle to gain any depth. And once you're in the age he is and beyond, you should start to develop familiarity and kind of patterns and repetitions in your friendship, the way that you and I do. We always kind of have similar things that we do that deepens our friendship and reconnects it. He should be starting to develop those with a couple of different kids. So that's the way to do it. Kind of bring it in, structure it, place he's most comfortable, watch him, see how he's going, scaffold success, build activities around it, fun stuff for him, the other kid, sense of pride, all that stuff. And then the last place he'll nail it is when it's 4 to 5 boys he's not comfortable with and he walks over there.
It's a wild playground. He's trying to start a game on with a lot more going on. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, but great catch by the parent.
Observant. Doing the extra work, changing the daycare opposite the school. Mate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
Got to praise the effort.
Praise the effort,
It's amazing. Well done. Hope that helps that parent. Hey, guys, Happy New Year. Hope you both had a restful break with heaps of fun with the fam. Just to tag on to Nick's Griswold, my husband gave himself food poisoning New Year's Eve by eating a super spicy hot pot. Let's just say he thought he was 20 and at uni again. He ended up in a hot mess similar to Nick. I had the joy of looking after him while dying. Not really. And 3 kids, including toilet training twins. Happy New Year to us. That's going to make the end of year run, Billy. That's great. Hey, thank you for this week's episode on Schooling Success. Our eldest is starting prep in a week's time, and it's been a flurry of excitement. She has also lost her first tooth. The episode had me reflecting on my past experiences of starting school and how this has affected my behaviour around shaping my daughter's experience. I'm a fiery, extroverted redhead and also a bit of a freckle, to quote Nick. So school was not particularly problematic for me. I ended up in leadership roles and sometimes at the principal's office for annoying teachers with my directness. I had no trouble speaking up or expressing myself. Yep, definitely lacked empathy. Also, school in the 90s was very different. From walking home, playing in the street, no smartphones, no tablets, at a stay-at-home mum, no extracurricular activities, etc. My daughter is very different. She is a more anxious child, self-reflective, introverted, empathetic, and not a verbal processor. Both my partner and I are aware that school may be a struggle for her personality, and she may have already retreated into herself. We both are trying our best to walk with her through these emotions. She is intellectually above standard and has amazing empathy and problem-solving skills. However, we noticed at orientation that she did not engage with any other kids and was more interested in reading the homework books. She said that she thought of orientation, wondering what she thought about orientation, she replied, it was boring. The activities are what we do at home and the other kids were loud and smelled. I had a little chuckle at this. I have realised that I may not have prepared her for starting school in the way her personality needs. In my mind, for my personality, being prepared for school is wearing the uniform, doing a countdown calendar and doing mini picnics with the new lunchbox. Yet upon reflection, I think I have missed the mark and not prepared her for being around a diverse range of kids. This is drawn from her comment at prep orientation and her behaviour retreating to books. She's also been going to kindergarten and has 2 sisters, twins, and has been exposed to other children at swimming and Sunday church. But somehow I feel like there is something missing, that I haven't equipped her in a certain area. But I am having trouble identifying it and or what to do about it. I guess my question simmers down to this. How does a parent with a very different personality and child experience to their child express their child's struggles, i.e., i.e., not a verbal processor, being around a busy environment, being in a larger group of new kids, the culture change that is shaping schools in a way that equips her for school. Second part, parent guilt. It never feels like we have done enough. How do you guys manage this feeling?
Let's hold the second one for a second. So the first one, do you experience that? I definitely do. Like, there's a vulnerability in being really reflective parents and really, present, conscious parents, is that we put ourselves in our kids' shoes and, think about either I'd really struggle with that, so I need to do what I would have needed, or I was fine with that, like this parent is. This was sweet for me. I really actually liked the practicing the lunchbox thing, picnic thing. So I don't think you drop that, but you think about, she's actually kind of maybe disengaging and retreating because maybe she's overwhelmed by all the kids that are there, or there is a vulnerability in the bright kids that they just tuck completely into that element of school and that they don't explore social relationships because they're like, no, I'm really smart. This is what I want to do. I just want to read the books and do the homework. But they miss then the opportunity to develop their social skills through that kind of challenging environment because they're not engaging with it. So I have a real problem with this. And I think the answer that I try and do, and with a lot of families that I meet in clinic, is say, you've got an awareness of it. So this parent's like way past a lot of us. They've got an awareness of that vulnerability that I'm thinking about what did I need and what did I need when I was a kid and how I was fine. But then when you've got an awareness of it, I think being conscious of it and looking at your child and saying, actually, what does this kid need? What does this kid in front of me need? And that's what all of us are trying to do, is be led by the child we're supporting. And if you can be conscious of the bias that you have because you're putting yourself in their shoes or bringing your own childhood experience into it, that's really important. But I do that all the time. I fall down at this frequently because, Evie is like a little version of me, physically, like just bopping around. And sometimes I will over support her in some times of difficulty or potential difficulty because I think I'm putting myself in her shoes. Yeah. But do you have that? Do you experience that with... Maybe you do a little bit in the like she'll be right stuff because you're very resilient. It's a big strength of yours. You're so good socially.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
So what because I've been reflecting about this the last couple of weeks in this topic, I'm like, I think what's been happening for me is like, I just want her to have the most successful start and then ongoing at school, like every parent. But for me, success is just mixes in well. Like when I say success, I don't need her to be the class captain. I don't need her to be a stand. I just want her to land and be comfortable and enjoy it.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think what is happening is she's a lot like my oldest, a lot like my partner, and they kind of gel a bit better on some things, and we try and find stuff. We heaps of stuff. She's 99% great with me and 100% great with mum. But I kind of step back a bit. Like all I hear from Henry is like orientation was really good. Like she got in there, she did a great job, and I just almost like I don't want to not be involved, but it's going really well. I'm really happy. I'll be there at drop off on the first day and those sorts of things. But I'm like, as long as it's going well, I don't want to kind of. I think I'm not sure how to introduce the right energy or stuff into something.
Isn't that funny? Because one of the things that I wish in life is that Evie had more time around you, because I think that you are for your girls, but all the kids that are in your life a really protective factor. So it's quite funny that you are like, I've just got to stay out of it a bit.
I think at home, but I think school, I don't know if maybe I'm building school up to be too much, but it feels like a delicate transition more than I thought. I hadn't thought about it until 2 weeks ago and you did this topic. Now that I'm like, oh God, it seems to be going well right now. I'm just going to, I'm not going to be myself. I'll be a bit quieter and just hope it goes well. Like I'm sort of like pushing the boat out a bit.
Yeah.
It is different. I mean, 4 days a week for the last 3 years she's been going to daycare, maybe 4 years. Like she's like socially great, but this feels different. Yeah. And hadn't until 2 weeks ago. I was like, shit, this is a bigger deal. So anyway,
you're pushing the boat out, but you're watching the boat as well.
Yeah. It's just it's a bigger ocean now, and she's not. My kid is almost physically the largest kid in her whole kindergarten. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And socially is so strong.
Yeah.
But this is a different ball game.
It'll be interesting, and if we're still doing the pod when Ron hits school, because you are very like her. Like you guys have got this beautiful
really similar.
connection, and she's got some good BJJ moves.
She's set to go. Yeah, she's going to be a different kettle of fish, and even socially, just seeing how she's going to go. Anyway, different kettle, but
Now, what do you do about parental guilt? What's your answer there?
I've got no answer. I've got that guilt.
do
I
you do about
justify it. Honestly, I justify it. Honestly, I think about it a lot and I reflect about it a lot. I think about, the fact they've been in care for 4 days. My ideal world is one of us would be a full-time parent and looking after kids, but it's just not the world I'm living in. Don't have that, frankly, financial opportunity to do that. So I've put in all the effort I can to make the time. I think a lot about my year ahead and what I'm going to do. We talk about this and I'm trying to focus on my kids as much as I can with the time I have, and I try not to do other activities. So I'm trying to do my best. There's no way it's enough. It's never enough. I mean, you can never do enough. So I just do my best, and I'm comfortable. Honestly, I think because I track it, I'm like doing what I can.
Yeah. I think you've got a real strength in the way that you put a lot of effort into balance.
Yeah,
I do.
I
And
do.
I really admire that about you, where you're like, these are the priorities. This one's going to trump the others. Like family's really important to you, the relationship, all that stuff. And I fail miserably at that, like possibly a lot of listeners, where I just work full time. I spend an hour at a gym every day. I run, I do hours of the podcast every day, including weekends and stuff. And my answer to that is when I'm with Evie particularly, I'm 100% with her, and it's like, it's so rich, and like you would hopefully see that I'm like that. Like I'm 100% with her, and I'm like engaged with her. I'm not on my phone. I'm not like secondarily with her in the background, not really thinking about it. And it's easy to do that because I don't get much time with her, but that's how I justify it for myself. And I know a lot of families out there that are traveling for work, don't get a lot of time. And that's my answer. You don't need to quit your job. It's not about how much time you spend with your kid. It's about how you spend that time with your kid. I 100% believe that. I've spent 20 years learning that and seeing it played out. And that's Evie and I have this really beautiful relationship where we don't get much time together, but I'm 100% there with her on the ground, in the dirt, being led by her, playing with her. Like, so, and that's my answer. It sounds like I'm fishing for praise, but that's how I answer the parental guilt thing.
Yeah. I'm not trying my best, and neither are you.
Yeah, and and totally. And I need to work financially, but it's a really big part of my identity. I really enjoy it. I need to exercise my mental health. Like Annalise is the same. She's just gone back and she's loving it because she loves her work. So but it's really hard. So a really good question.
Yep. I think there's 3 questions to go. Hey, gents, thanks so much for this timely podcast. My 5.5-year-old daughter started pre-K last year at a girls' school where she will be until she's 12. She's going to kindergarten this year. I explained to the teachers last year when she started, my only concern was her social and emotional learning as this was her first time in care. She's previously spent her time with me. I was very active with her to look for playgrounds, playdates, activities every day. I feel like I had many opportunities and used them to step in and scaffold many social skills with her friends who were usually older. She was a sensitive and kind, chatty, mature child when she started pre-K. We had a few different incidents involving various girls, one who would keep following her around and wouldn't stop when my daughter said, no, stop, don't. She did go to the teacher at the beginning and ask for help, and they would redirect this little girl, but it persisted and the support dropped off. It came to the point where she would hit my daughter and my daughter would play with her because she was scared. But come home angry and upset and incredibly dysregulated. She kept reinforcing that she needed to stop playing with this girl. She left the group of girls that this girl played in. However, the girl she started playing with didn't want her playing with anyone else, which was okay when they were having a great time, but at some point they had a big disagreement and the girl screamed at her. The teacher, when she told me, said she could see my daughter shut down inside. After that, my daughter started to say she didn't want to go to school, would draw terribly angry pictures of this girl, and was really hard to deal with every day, to be honest. I spoke to the school counsellor who said my little one may have strong sense of fairness and justice. I asked my daughter to play with other girls. She found it hard as everyone were in groups and or had formed solid friendships by then. She eventually went back to the original group with the girl that she was scared of. Within the group, there is another girl who plays this game of you're in, you're not in. When I first heard of this game at the beginning of the year, I said it wasn't very kind, it would make people sad, but this is something she knows as we've modelled that on the playgrounds from time to time. Inclusivity is very important for me and my partner who have both been discriminated against and bullied. I tried to redirect her away from this girl, but this little girl is very confident and spunky and fun and has great tricks and jokes that she has learnt from her older siblings. Anyway, my daughter eventually became and kept being the one not in. They would also ask her to repeat something they said and then say, "Why did you say that?" My daughter would come home every day crying, angry, just so angry. And by the last week of school, she was crying and begging to change schools. Things we have done to address all this include role playing, how to say no, stop. Previously, she'd ask politely in a mouse voice, and going to playgrounds and reinforcing that when the moment arises, she can now stop in a slightly loud. She can now say stop in a slightly louder voice. We're still working on it, but she feels confident. Talking a lot about what friendship should look like, reinforcing what a good friend does when I see something nice happen on a play date, and asking her how she feels after a play date and how good friends make us feel warm and happy inside after spending time together. Also, having play dates with certain girls from school that has showed an interest in trying to get to know her more. However, there are some moments where she doesn't feel like it's fair, and that's where we get stuck. I'm not sure how to get past that as differences in ability. We share and turn. We share and turn takes. It feels like it's unfair for my daughter, and then she doesn't enjoy playing with them. But I know it won't always be like that, so I'm not sure how to deal with this. So my question is how to navigate this year. Sorry, I know that's simply massive as it's a lengthy question, but my daughter went from being this confident kid who would go up to any kid on the playground, even teenagers, and ask if they wanted to play, to being a kid who would stay by my side and scan the playground and hesitancy play around other kids watching them before stepping to ask. She has come along in leaps and bounds with her self-esteem during the holidays, but it is fragile. I have an 18-month-old also, and we were absolutely drowning this year. Also, when my older one is so dysregulated and emotions are all haywire, how can I counter its effects on my little one? Seeing her sister cry and rage also makes my younger one cry. Please, any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for reading this, and I truly love your podcast. It's the only podcast I can listen to without feeling like I'm failing. Griswolds and Winslows are so relatable, and I know we're in the trenches together, which is why I'm comfortable sharing this. Much love to you and your families.
Yeah, beautifully read. What do you think?
There's a lot. That person, I don't know. I feel like they've learned more from the podcast than me, or maybe they've learned it elsewhere as well. But they are reflecting, trying the stuff around the playground, reinforcement, getting in close. Like, doesn't sound like they're leaving much unturned, Billy. To be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's two things going on for this little girl. This is what sounds like a dysfunctional social group.
Okay.
So what happens is that all kids want connection and relationships more than anything. Kids who have deficits in their social ability will find each other. So they find each other because they can't connect with the other kids, and so they'll find each other. And that's where, like we've talked about, we've got a specific two-parter on bullying, and we talked about that kind of power dynamic and holding that. But another reason that kids will bully is because they're dysfunctional in the way that they socially interact. And both those girls, the one that's like, you know, being really mean, and then the other one who's kind of intentionally excluding her, both those girls are struggling to be pro-social in their behaviours. So they probably need what that mum is doing. That mum's got those beautiful 3 steps. The other girls actually need that. What this girl needs is more confidence. Now, I kind of understand where the school counsellor is like, oh, this fairness thing, but that's more in like when we get other girls around and it fails a little bit. So I think working on that a little bit, because she just sounds like she's a little bit behind in taking perspectives of others and what we talk about as theory of mind. What's it like to be that other person? She's a bit behind in that, but I actually don't think that's why she's failing in that social group at school. I think that she should be leaving that and succeeding in another social group. And I'm more interested in why, when she went and sought out other friendships, didn't that succeed? And where's the deficit there? And that might be where the work is on perspectives of others. The other kids just need way more support in how to treat each other and how to be pro-social and how to behave and all that stuff. And they've just got learned behaviours that they're reinforcing because they're getting that social connection. And that's why the bully keeps bullying, because they're just seeking out that connection and they're getting patterns of behaviour where they go, I have these interactions back and forward all the time. This is just what we do. We play this game where we say you're not in and then we exclude you and all of that stuff. So that's not on the parent to solve that social group. That's on having a chat with the school and the school going, sweet, yeah, this group needs way more support because they're just not functioning well, and that won't fix itself on its own. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
So yeah, tough, but beautiful example of a
advice.
parent that's got a phenomenally tailored, specific approach on one part of where the child is struggling in their social skills and sticking up for themselves and all those things. But I think thinking about why is she not succeeding with other friendships, because she'll want connection more than anything else. That's why she's back there tolerating that.
Yeah.
That bit, you know, I really felt that where it's like, oh, and she just shut down. That's a coping mechanism when a kid's really in threat and you know, fight or flight mode. Often another option that they have is they just shut their system down. That's what she's doing. It's not because of fairness that happened.
Yeah, I think your advice is great because you like go to that point where she can't make those other connections with the other group, maybe.
And then other people, maybe including this mum, she's got the capacity, need to sort out that social group succeeding and being more pro-social in the way that they interact and treat each other, because that's all they care about. They don't care about how each other feel. They just are caught up in a pattern that's not healthy for all of them.
Cool. Couple more questions, Billy. Dear Nick and Dr. Billy, thank you so much for your podcast. I've learned so much and shared it with many other parents who have themselves found it helpful. I'm writing to you today for a response to 10 things I had about you school success episode. To provide context for my question, I was very interested to hear your description of Heath Ledger's upbringing in childhood. I know that every parent must say this, but my oldest boy displays many of the same athletic and artistic talents that you described Heath as having. I have 3 children, one boy who's just turned 11, a boy-girl twins who are 8.5. My sister was also similar to my oldest son in her wide-ranging abilities, golf champion plus star of Canada's equivalent of Broadway musicals, as well as having a sensitive, compassionate temperament. She died by suicide when I was pregnant with my oldest child. Although almost 12 years have passed, I struggle with tremendous feelings of grief, guilt and helplessness around her death. Forgive me if you've gone into this in other episodes, and therefore if this question is not applicable to the episode at hand, but you opened up a discussion with talk about Heath's life and special tragic circumstances. My ears immediately perked up because my older sister is so similar to what you described and we have depression in the family, so that brings additional worries. My question is specific to our family's unusual circumstance. My husband works for the Foreign Service and we move countries and continents very frequently. My children barely have enough time to get a foothold in a new setting when they are ripped away and forced to re-establish themselves in a radically different culture. So far, their young ages have protected them from much conscious engagement and deep understanding of what they're leaving behind. But our upcoming move will take place when they are more likely to be 12 and 9. And I worry about having them transition into what is sure to be a dramatically different culture from our current setting, Rome, Italy. You spoke about schools being the village, and I would agree with this sentiment I agree that this sentiment is likely to be true when a school is located in a community you're familiar with that reflects and embodies a dominant shared culture and is an expression of common local values. But what happens when the school culture is alienating, as it has been for my oldest son here in Rome, and the local culture is so different that the children have no sense of tribe or fitting in anywhere? Foreign service families get surprisingly little, read zero, training or assistance in the course of this unique journey. We parents feel a great deal of guilt because we choose this for our family, and it is devastating when one or more children struggle. My husband and I have been travelling the world with international jobs since 2000 and have enjoyed the empowerment and sense of agency that comes from choosing our workplace and country of residence. But our children are dragged along for the ride, and I'm seeing and hearing widely that challenges on their end can be so overwhelming as to force parents into a career change for the sake of family well-being. I left my international career to become a stay-at-home mum when my first son was born. And while I'm committed to supporting my family through all experiences and making tough choices to benefit the whole, I really hope that these unique challenges don't force us to give up on the wonderful life that we have built and all the amazing opportunities it offers. We never really settled properly in Rome, and now we are getting ready to move again in about a year's time. So I'd be so grateful for any suggestions that might help our family, help our children enjoy current and future school success, most importantly, happiness. I apologise for the length of my email and grateful for anything you might distill out and address in a future podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I included that question because I think it's a beautiful example of like there are unique circumstances that mean the kind of standard generic advice is not that helpful. And this is a parent who's, really struggling with the inner turmoil of like, this is my career, this is our life, this is what we've done. And she's already made huge sacrifices to support her family, but is worried about, this boy. I see lots of kids in clinic that are high achievers, they're like good looking, gun, athletic, smart, bright, friends with everyone. And there is a unique vulnerability in them that, they do have that mental health struggle in the future because they kind of haven't been seen or they're expected to maintain that. And we know with Heath's story, there was a lot of, mental anguish and, dysfunction that was happening in his life, but he was just chronically struggling with big elements of his daily functioning. So, it doesn't necessarily mean that because this child is that profile that there will be struggles, but there is a vulnerability for a couple of reasons. The family history that the mum talks about and the lack of kind of consistency in the protective element of a protective school culture. So what you can do for kids like this, because there will be kids that aren't travelling a lot but also school at the moment or maybe never will be, that protective element is think about where are the other positive experiences for this child or teenager. A lot of the times, like you think about, this happens a lot. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the movie, he rolls in from another school, but we're not really worried about him. Heath has no real connection to the school, does he?
No.
Doesn't really have mates at school.
Got one mate.
Yeah, he's got one mate. He's like stuffing around in the chemistry class. But what do we get the sense he does have? What protects him if school doesn't?
Self-esteem?
Yeah, why? Do you get any insight into why Heath does?
No, I was thinking back to his grandfather. No, I can't remember, to be honest.
So he's got like music, he's got this, we see him kind of shooting pool, like he's in other communities. You get the sense that he's not this like lone wolf.
Yep.
He's actually got things that he cares about.
Yep.
Another classic that we did a great episode on, Remember the Titans and Parenting Without Shame. Remember the quarterback that comes. He just rolls into the school and he's
Sunshine.
fine.
Yeah.
Sunshine, because sport protects him. So what can you find that are the transferable cultures and traditions and activities that they participate in so your son or daughter or whoever can come into a new community and go, this is what protects my identity. This is what protects my mental health. This is what protects my self-esteem. And, you have these things. I have these things that I can lift up, drop somewhere else and build connections and relationships that reinforce who I am because of those things. The other thing is, and this parent will be nailing this, the most protective elements that you can do in home are I feel safe and secure and I feel like there's at least one adult that I can go and talk to safely with trust about my feelings and how I'm going. And that's a really important thing that all of us need to be doing, regardless of how much your kid's succeeding at school. There is a clear and safe pathway for my kid to come and talk to me about whatever's happening. And they won't be thinking about, like we talked about, it's not punishments. If it's consequences, they understand them, they build them together. But protect the relationship over everything else. And that's the stuff that you can do for this kid. Find those things that they do, music, sport, all those things are universal. They can lift and be taken to anywhere else in the world. protect the relationships they have with them. And then the beautiful thing about the world now is that, make sure that they've got communities that are a part of either online, the participation things that they do, art, music, culture, sport, that stuff, and that they regularly, frequently, at least once a week get to do that stuff.
Yep, cool. All right, last question, Billy. Hi, Nick and Billy. So incredible to have you back in the air in 2024, and what a cracking episode to start with. Long-time fan here. Absolutely love your work, and I have a long one for you, so buckle in. I'm a mum to a creative and inquisitive 10-year-old daughter, an orchid with autism, ADHD and severe generalised anxiety, and an exuberant, hilarious 7-year-old neurotypical son, also an orchid. My daughter is starting year 5 this year and has experienced significant separation anxiety since day one, ever since daycare. She's at a school that is a really supportive school and has been extremely lucky to have compassionate teachers that have all connected with her. Our primary goal for school has always been to build a safe classroom environment, secure teaching relationships. We've had a beautifully collaborative relationship with our classroom teachers and school exec to identify and support her needs as they evolve. Despite this, she has experienced significant school can't, worsening over the last year to the point where she was either coming home sick with anxiety-related psychosomatic complaints, e.g. stomach ache, sore throat, or too distressed to even go to school, perhaps 3 out of 10 days. The timeline coincides with increasing complexity of friendships as developmentally expected. My daughter is a supreme masker of her ASD, ADHD symptoms in public and strives to fit in with her peers. Sadly, often at the expense of her own needs and self-identity, I'm almost certain she suffers RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, though I know this isn't a DSM diagnosis. Through months of piecemeal discussions, often via written communication, as verbal is too overwhelming for her, she has conveyed that she feels excluded and mocked by her peers. She reports they call her weird, stubby, and a scaredy cat, and once wrote that if I told you all the mean things people say to me, I'd end up with a book filled of mean things. She's articulated that she's terrified of school and it's a traumatising environment. She has even at times felt rejected by teachers and thinks they don't like her, often when they are giving her negative feedback on her work. It is utterly heartbreaking. Unfortunately, compounding these issues are that having masked all day, she comes home and releases the dysregulation, primarily on her younger brother. This is severely damaging their relationship as well as his self-esteem and self-worth. My daughter is medicated for anxiety and ADHD, and we have unreservedly and exhaustively dedicated ourselves to support her via many modalities: OT, speechy, psychology, dietitian therapy, therapy off and on for 7 years. We've also done a lot of work on ourselves to improve our emotional regulation and intelligence and work hard to create a home where all feelings are welcome and we hold space to feel and move through them with our kids. Shout out to your co-regulation episode, one of my faves. Despite all this, the school refusal persists. I've been doing some reading on a style of parenting coined low-demand parenting, considered mostly beneficial in autistic children and PDA profile, which I suspect she has. This model aligns with a lot of natural instincts of interacting with her. This is to recognise what she is capable of on any given day and accommodate our expectations accordingly. So rather than push her to attend school leading to symptoms of physical illness and often full-blown meltdowns, hysteria, I meet her where she's at and opt for a mental health day to allow her to rest and restore her nervous system and try again the next day. However, these mental health days are becoming more frequent now that she knows this is an option. It's hard to discern when we can push her to successfully achieve the graded exposure of school versus risk autistic burnout. I see family members' concern over how much school she is missing, and I'm acutely aware of societal expectations on the topic. I've been raised in the 80s style of parenting model to suck it up and get on with it. My question, yes, finally come to them, questions. What is the evidence for planned part-time school attendance as a tool to prevent nervous system shutdown? How is this managed with government compulsory attendance requirements? Do you want to answer that now?
Yeah. Let's break them down, then we'll do a bigger answer. So yes, we do this with lots of kids. So we shorten the duration of school, but it's always a short maximum medium-term plan. Like a couple of months, they got to be back full-time. But the goal is to build their capacity. So you go, I want them to roll in there and succeed. We're going to be able to give them the support. We're going to build their kind of almost deal with this fatigue that they get of how long they're having to mask and all those things. But I do that with a lot of kids, but it's got to be purposeful. It's not to kind of give us a break as a school or, you got to come pick them up at 11 because that's how long we can handle them till. We want them to succeed, and they can do that in a couple of hours, and then it's 3 hours, and then it's 4 hours, and then it's 5 hours, and then nailing it.
Build the muscle.
Build the muscle. Beautiful.
Cool. Second question, Billy. Any other novel ideas on how to scaffold and practice her social development and mend the sibling relationship? Home is not a safe space to practice social conflicts as the sibling relationship is so damaged. They have a conditioned reactive response to one another, even triggered by something as simple as looking at each other.
Yeah, so school doesn't feel safe and secure either, despite, which is beautiful, that this person spends a lot of time talking about how hard and how amazing the educators have been, but this kid is not feeling safe and secure and their narrative is being destroyed there. Like, this kind of a whole book, I could write a whole book on all the negative things that these other kids say about me. What a beautiful thing this parent has done is created a communication pathway where this kid doesn't feel comfortable talking to me but writes it down. Amazing. Over everything, like there's two big priorities here. We hear about thousands of kids through this podcast. This is one of the kids that I wish I could meet in clinic, mainly because there's so much to do to support this parent, but also that the success will be so rewarding when they come out the other side of it. Two things: come back, drop everything and build back that relationship with the sibling. If that's how bad it is, that they just look at each other and it's conflict and it's threatening the safety and security for both of them, it'll be causing so much stress and reactivity in the parent as well. So build it back, drop everything and just build it back. And the purpose of it is just to enjoy each other, to celebrate parts of each other, all that. There's no other bit about it. There's no you have to eat your dinner. There's no we're practicing sharing, we're doing any of that stuff. It's just joy. It's just find whatever it is that you can do, that even a few minutes every day or an activity once a week that you do that is just celebrating each other. Scaffold it, do whatever it takes.
Give me an example.
So there'll be something that girl loves, and find what they love and try and find a way to bring the other kid in on it, in a way that older kid is teaching the kid about it and showing them. And it's this beautiful thing. Reinforce it, do whatever it takes, jump up and down, set fireworks off every time they have a positive and even a slight positive interaction with each other. And it's hard. I hate telling parents to do stuff, but drop whatever you need to be able to do that with those siblings, because it's really important. This kid feeling like that at school and then coming home dysregulated and that source of conflict, we see this a lot, and the sibling relationship is really important. We talked about this on a previous, I'm trying to remember which one it was, Legends of the Fall and siblings. So it's really important that you put that into it. Now at school, there is kind of a social skill deficit that's happening, but this kid needs to, have a really big narrative shift that they're constantly not hearing negative things about them and thinking about through therapy what can help. Beautiful example of a parent that is meeting the needs of that kid, changing their parenting style, reflecting and saying what do they need, but going, hey, we're going backwards. She's pulling more and more mental health days. She's going less and less to school. That is a red flag. It goes back to what we talked about with school refusal. Build her capacity for stress tolerance and say, this is, build the literacy. And you've got a lot of therapists that say, hey guys, this is the focus. I want her to be able to, I'm doing a beautiful thing of connecting with her, supporting her, validating her experience as another step. And she's getting into the age where you can be like, this is why. It's because you're feeling like this is an awful place. You feel like it's going to be something negative is going to happen. It's causing all this stress in you. It's why you're getting tummy aches and everything. Let's work on some things that we can do together that will calm your nervous system down, like we've talked about, the deep breathing, the muscle tension and relaxation. But let's also think about, can we build different ways to think about this? But you've got to make sure that if you say this might be a place that you succeed, maybe you'll go there and it'll be okay, that you've got the school set up so that she goes and does succeed there and it is okay and she's being protected from being bullying and teased and feeling like she's less than. And you complement that, you do it in unison and you do it really targeted and with reduced hours is totally fine.
Okay. And
Was there a
last
third
part of the
part? Sorry.
question, yep. Lastly, she is young for her years. She is young for her years, so there is a potential to repeat her. I'm aware she is more emotionally immature than her peers, given her neurodiversity, so wonder if repeating would help to bridge this gap somewhat, but I'm also reluctant to expose her to another year of school when she's suffering so much. Academically, she's achieving, though not reaching her potential according to WISC cognitive assessment results. So this would be solely based on a social emotional maturity. Is there a consequence of repeating kids for the purpose, particularly neurodivergent kids? Thanks so much for getting through this essay and for all the work you tirelessly do to support us all.
Thanks so much for sending in the question. It's phenomenal they take the time to share that, and I hope that we'll be able to help in some small way. So yes, totally. Like I said before, I'm fine with any kid repeating as long as it's purposeful. And this will be staying in this class or staying in prep or changing school or going to a special school will give us a better ability to meet that specific child's needs. It's got to be for that. It can't just be because, this sucked. She needs another year, or she's a year behind in her emotional development or something. Yeah, it's because she's a year behind emotionally, or she's well below her peers emotionally. And it's not just going to be she'll be around kids that are at her level. This is going to give us a better ability to scaffold her skill development and then reinforce it when we see it, because she's going to stay in this grade, because she's going to shift to this school, because we're going to do this thing differently. And bring all the therapists in. Hopefully you've got a good developmental PED involved. Think about how you can do that. But yes, definitely. But school needs to come back and be a positive experience. There's no surprise at all that she's not where her potential is academically. And that should be another target. A secondary target is we want to get her to where her cognitive assessment has shown she's capable of being, because that will be a strength of hers. And the fact that she's below expectation and where she could be potentially is just another sign that this isn't a positive environment for her at the moment.
Yep. Wow. Okay. Yes.
Well done, mate. That was a lot of... I'm
Well
always
done.
like, this one will be
Well
quick.
done.
I've cut heaps of them. And then
Yeah, I thought, wow, this is our longest episode ever, as I look at it. There you go.
some beautiful moments from you, mate.
Oh, no, I practiced my reading. I think I did all
No,
right.
no, just the things that you said, you'll see when you listen to it.
I told you, I need a rough cut quick. Yeah? I need got a bit of cramming to do before Monday.
I'll cut one that won't have the audio quality that people have come to expect now. I always feel like people going back and listening to the earlier must be like, God, this sounds awful.
Not at all. Billy, thank you so much. You've obviously put a lot of work this week responding to a lot of very complex questions, but also thanks to the listeners for sending through those complex questions. Again, guys, love it when you send us questions, particularly for the topics. I'm not sure what the next topic is yet. I'm not sure Billy even knows what it's going to be.
No.
It's just a day-to-day proposition.
How to prepare for that, yes.
Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks, Dr. Billy Garvey.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.